regular meeting of the March 1st, 2023 Fitchburg Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission has 7 members. Members are citizens residing in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. The commission is appointed by the City Council and serves on a volunteer basis. The commission collaborates with the residents, business, and organizations to facilitate compliance with the 8 interests of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Fitchburg Wetlands Bylaw. Meetings of this commission are subject to and abide by the open meeting law. If you would like more information about any of these regulations, please ask a commissioner or our environmental consultant. Thank you for your commitment to the conservation of our natural resources, and thank you to everybody as we navigate this brief period without our active agent. Thank you for your patience as we navigate this hybrid meeting. The commission requests that folks wishing to speak approach the podium and speak clearly into the microphone, and remote attendees maintain microphones on mute for privacy. If you would like to speak, use the raise your hand function to alert us of your intention. Be advised this public meeting is being live streamed and recorded by FATV. If a member of the in-person audience is recording this meeting, this is your opportunity to identify yourself for the public record. Seeing no one willing to do that, I'm going to call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
I'm here.
Commissioner Baker?
Here.
Commissioner Christian?
Here.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Here.
Commissioner Helene?
Here.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Here.
Chairs in attendance. Normally we would look at some minutes. I wanted to bring to everybody's attention there. I don't know if we have any, I didn't get any minutes. So I think what we've been doing is running off of the minutes, that the Zoom meeting transcripts are the minutes. And wanted to make sure that everyone was comfortable with that. And I wondered if we had to make a motion to accept that. We can worry about that another night, just for like the future. Something to just concern ourselves with for the future.
It's actually much easier to go back and watch the on-demand FATV to go over and review what was discussed.
That's true, but it's not going to be there forever.
It's not, and it's not official, true.
So that is something that we need to work on. The abutter notification cards. I think we have Platinum Development already. Does it?
Yes, they was sent in last
Okay.
meeting.
And then 291 Westminster Street.
They submitted them today.
Okay, so that's done. And then the last one doesn't require that. Okay, so do we have everyone here now? Got Nick, Tim, okay. All right. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for Notice of Intent, Platinum Development, LLC, 93 Gibson Road, driveway crossing and single-family dwelling in the buffer zone. Do we have, okay, hello. Okay, so we weren't able to schedule a full site visit, but I know that a number of commissioners and our environmental consultant they were able to look at it. This time of year, it's difficult to make a lot of determinations. Let's see. Do we have someone you're here to speak to the notice of intent?
Yeah, my engineer should be on the Zoom to explain the changes that we made since we last met.
Okay.
I have Mr. Mark Popham.
Yep.
You're unmuted. You just need to unmute your microphone.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay. This is Mark Popham, and as a follow-up to the last hearing that was held on this application, there was some discussion about whether the water feature on the property was an intermittent brook or a stream, and there was a discussion that because there's a downstream wetland, and apparently there had been a filing for an upstream wetland from this site, that by nature of that hydrologic connection, it appeared to be that there was a presumption that it is in fact an intermittent brook. And given that eventuality, I would call it at this point, I conferred with my client and proceeded to amend the site plan to eliminate the culvert that was shown on the original drawing, and in its place do a three-sided bridge configuration in order to avoid disturbance of land under water body and to provide a crossing that meets the Massachusetts stream crossing standards. So essentially, it's a precast bridge. I'm quite familiar with them. I've done 2 filings in the past in the town of Holden using this particular product as part of the Wachusett Valley the housing development there. And it was used on 2 crossings that were fully constructed and eventually signed off by the Conservation Commission there as meeting the necessary stream crossing standard for a feature that's essentially the same size as this one. So they're rapidly deployed to the site once they're ordered, and it provides essentially its placement just like you would more or less take off a truck, flatbed truck, and put in place with loading straps. It's very similar to moving a septic tank. The major difference in the crossing, the crossing is the exact same horizontal location as the original culvert was shown. What the change that's necessary here is there is some minor grading changes within the 25-foot buffer zone either side of the intermittent brook, and that obviously needs to be a little more fill in that area in order to create the approaches to the bridge surface to come off the roadway and then to rise into the upland area of the site. In order to prevent any erosion of that fill material, you can see on the detailed supplemental plan, it shows a cross-section of the bridge installation, the planned bridge installation, and the stabilization of the fill material around it using basically a 1.5 to 3 inch stone on the bottom of it, and then a 3 to 5 inch stone to prevent any
Popham?
scouring by runoff. Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Popham, you may not realize this, we're having some technical difficulties here, so none of the information that you're referencing is on the screen for us to look at.
I'll share it.
Okay.
I'll share it now.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay, just to quickly recap, so this is essentially a 1 inch equals 4 foot presentation of the actual bridge crossing. On the left-hand side is a plan view detail of it, and on the right-hand side, on the upper part of the sheet is looking through the bridge crossing with the channel flow in the center. And underneath there's a detail of how you set these things. You literally don't just place them on the ground surface that exists there, because it's currently a loamy forested soil. So you create a stone support for the bridge itself. A feature that is additional is on all four corners back from the edge of the actual bridge. I show basically a 3x3x3 slump block or landscaping block. It helps with the transition of the fill along those corners. And then you armor the outside of that with the 3 to 5 inch stones. So any runoff that comes off the driveway on the corners of the bridge will essentially be slowed down and filtered through that stone.
Okay. Is that all for us, Mr. Popham?
Unless you have some questions directly for me.
Okay, let's open the floor for public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor of or against this hearing, or would like to request more information? Please state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone visiting us from remote who would be?
I have a couple of people, Haley Dorsey, well, Jeff Hillman is with Nick
DPW,
Erickson
yeah.
and John Barrett, so I don't believe so at this time.
Who was the first person?
Haley Dorsey?
Those are potential homeowners, the Dorseys.
Oh, those are the potential, okay.
Correct, yeah.
All right. So, Ms. Dorsey, do you need to comment at all? Yeah, except it's not working well today.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi, yeah, we're here. No, no comments. We're in favor of the proposal. Looked good to us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Popham.
Thank you.
Hearing none from the public, let's turn to the commission. Are there any commissioners that have questions, or the environmental consultant that would have questions related to this?
Madam Chair, this is Tim Smith. I can get us started.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Okay. First question, Mark, is there any proposed filling of a resource area to install the bridge? So are you altering the bank? Are you altering or filling BVW? Are you filling any land underwater? Are any resource areas being impacted? And I'm not talking about just within the buffer zone, but are you actually doing any filling to install the crossing?
No, can you hear me? Still hear me?
We can hear
can.
you.
Okay.
Yep.
No, the beauty of using this 13 by 13 bridge is it essentially provides the width needed for the driveway. At the same time, the span across this wet feature in the area of the crossing, it's about 2.5 feet wide and only a few inches deep with no real bank. I mean, it literally acts as a swale in this crossing area. There's no touching of the land underwater body. It completely spans it. And there really isn't a bank, as you can see in the detail. And I know the DEP comments asked about, if there was a bank. There really isn't one here. It looks like a swale. And so we're not disturbing any of the wet area, the 2.5 feet or so of the width at this crossing location. And then there's no bank that's impacted by the placement of the bottoms of the bridge ends.
Yeah, I can understand the DEP's concern because it's assumed there is a bank if you have a stream, right? It's part of if you didn't have a bank, it wouldn't meet the definition for a stream. So it's within a definite channel, a defined channel, and that defined channel has banks. But I do understand what you're saying, that it's so wide that it spans over the banks. How wide is the driveway or the bridge?
It's 13 feet wide, 13 feet wide, 13 feet long. It's a square. It comes in two halves just because of the weight of the structure and the ability to bring it there. So it comes in two 6.5 foot wide sections, and then they're placed, they're butted up against each other, and then there's it's gasketed between the two sections.
Okay. By the way, so you referenced the stream crossing standards, and I think you're spot on by referencing those standards because it does need to comply with those standards. How about elevation? Do you have to elevate the land in order to bridge the stream?
That's the reason for the proposed grading shown on the site plan, the full site plan view. You do have to, because this has the required height of 5 feet plus over the actual stream in the section, in order to meet the openness requirements and so forth of the stream crossing standards. That causes the two ends of it to have some fill brought in, and that's why I referenced in the cross section, bridge section detail. It shows how that's achieved. So there's those concrete landscaping blocks are used to act as a transition to the natural soil around the ends of the bridge without impacting the brook itself. And then you armor the outside of that with the 3 to 5 inch stone, so it doesn't allow for any scour of the fill slope around the ends.
Yeah, so I see it's 5 feet 5 inches over the ground surface, and then the bridge itself, right, is going to be I assume 6 inches to a foot thick. So
yes, the sides
Yeah.
are 6 inches thick because of the loading on
Yep.
the bridge itself. It's a 12-inch concrete thickness on the top.
So at the either edge of the bridge, you're bringing up the grade around 6 feet, would you say? And
We're actually, it's about 5 feet. Because the slopes do rise up either side
Okay.
of the bridge itself a little bit. So it's about 5 feet.
So it's about 5 feet, and then obviously it's not going to be perfectly vertical. You're going to have some type of grade, whether it be 1 to 1 or 1 to 2, and then how are you going to? Because there's going to be side slopes, right, to the driveway now, because the driveway is elevated, so there'll be side slopes.
Yes.
What's the grade of those side slopes, and how are you stabilizing those side slopes?
Those side slopes are 3 to 1.
Okay, and how is it being stabilized?
We are just looking for my note here. I've got the stone shown around on the plan view, the bridge plan detail. So there's stone that comes up around either side to the edge of the driveway.
So you're rip-wrapping the side slopes?
Yes. And then as we're getting away from the bridge, we're clearing that area, and he's going to be grinding up some trees, and we would have, I would assume, since it's still wooded along the property line on the other parcel, and we're not disturbing in the 25-foot buffer zone past the silt fence line that's shown out on the plan, I would assume what would most likely make sense in that area, because there is a tree canopy still either side of this driveway, is to use wood chip or wood mulch.
Right, but so you've got a 13-foot wide driveway, and
Yeah.
then there's a side slope on either side at a 3-to-1 slope. So what's the total width of disturbance of the buffer zone?
We are 13 and 7, 20, about 24, 25 feet.
Okay, and did you, so obviously this is a,
Except at the
significant-
bridge itself where it's 13 feet.
sure. So it's a significant change over the initial notice of intent you filed, where you had to list the amount of buffer zone disturbance. Have you?
Yes.
Did you refile the notice of intent, or how did you?
Yes, you should have that. I actually changed
Colin, can
the,
you put up his additional narrative?
Sure.
yes, I modified the narrative accordingly and changed the actual 2 pages of the notice of intent form to reflect what's currently proposed.
Okay, and that's what was submitted, that's what DEP has, and that's what DEP is responding to.
Actually, they responded to the original plan, as far as I know,
Okay, so they're going to see
which
that.
had the culvert, and that's why they brought, basically mimicked your last discussion from the last hearing about the potential to meet the stream crossing standards.
Okay, sounds good. So, so you said the side slopes are going to be riprap, and how about, does the bridge have like wing walls, or is it, is that going to be riprap as well?
No, no wing walls. I mean, obviously, the intent of the crossing originally was to minimize the disturbance within the 25-foot buffer zone. And obviously, when you create this bridge and create the height that it involves, the approaches on either end of the driveway do involve the fill, as you mentioned. So that's why we have an increase in the overall disturbance from the original plan, but it's unavoidable in order to meet these stream crossing standards, quite honestly. So it's a matter of that has increased now from an original disturbance area in the original notice of intent from 850 square foot of disturbance in the 25-foot buffer zone to 1,650 square feet. So I have accounted for that change. So there's a pro and con with the change, obviously.
So it seems like the opening underneath the bridge is going to be fairly large, and just it seems highly unlikely there would be any impounding of water because the bridge was undersized. But did you do any calculations to support that bridge is adequate, that opening is adequately sized?
Well, to be honest with you, the stream crossing standards, the openness calculations end up with a optimum height on these of 6 feet. So that's why we ended up, and again, using my past experience on the Holden situation 5-6 years ago, what ended up getting worked out with the Conservation Commission and Holden and DEP was the closest you can get to that 6 feet that's the optimum height for these crossings, and that was independent of the flow of the stream itself.
Okay, and I'm at a disadvantage. I haven't seen the plan. How about the home? How close is it to the stream?
The house, there has been, the rest of the site layout is exactly as was presented in the last hearing. There have been no changes to any of that layout. That house right now, at its closest point is about, we're beyond the 25-foot buffer zone by about 30 feet, so 55 feet at its closest point.
Okay, I see it. Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have right now.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Do we have any commissioners with further questions?
I got a question. The applicant doesn't want to come back, and the resource doesn't want to have to do the bridge again, so we want to do it once, and we want to do it right. You mentioned the unsuitable soil at the base of the bridge, and you were going to put crushed stone down. This is my ignorance. Just how far do you have to go down to put the crushed stone to support that structure on unstable soil? I don't know. What we're doing is we're putting the stone on existing unstable soil, unless you go down to bedrock. What's the appropriate depth to set that bridge on unstable soil?
May I speak again?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. If you look on the plan, there are some test pit logs. Obviously, as part of a filing for Title V septic system approval with the Board of Health, we had to have official test pit logs, and they are shown on the overall site plan. There have been additional test pitting done on this site, as I mentioned in the original hearing, about where best to site the home and the leaching area on this site. So we have a pretty good indication of what the soil conditions are here. I didn't mean to indicate there are unstable soils or unsuitable soils where this bridge is going. In fact, there's probably, the normal forest litter, topsoil layer of up to about 8 or 10 inches. And that obviously is not what you would want to set the structure on. But what's being used is more or less a stone, we'll call it a spread footing, so to speak, on that, to place that 6-inch wide concrete bridge on top of, and without doing major excavation or a concrete footing to construct this bridge. It's not really necessary for a residential driveway. And my experience with the two in Holden is that worked very well there. Those held in place very well. And the additional feature of the slump blocks on all 4 corners of this also are going to provide extra stability.
So, Mark, no concrete footers?
No concrete footers. Nope.
So do you have to go closer to the stream in order to put that stone down to form the footer?
It's about a foot. And you pretty much can see that on the detail plan.
Actually, another question occurred to me. So in order to construct this bridge, right, you have to get heavy equipment on the other side of the stream. How do you get heavy equipment on the other side of the stream if there's no bridge in place? how does that construction occur?
Well, I know on the Holden situation, we did the approach from the roadway first, as much as possible, got as close as possible, reached across with a pretty good size, it was a link belt excavator. It's got quite a long reach, and prepared that other side. So the placement of the stone occurred reaching
Recording
over
stopped. Recording in progress.
Hi, still going?
Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, we can-
Kaufman.
Okay. All right. So you're able to get a lot of, reach a lot of this, but you do the approach from the roadway first, and then you reach across this with your machine and you prepare that other side. So and then the units come in, are placed, and then you're able to complete the work on the remainder of the work on the upland side.
Okay, and if you thought about how you're going to handle dewatering?
There's really, we're working from ground surface up, so there's really no dewatering involved with this.
So when you excavate to install that stone, it's likely you're going to be excavating below the grade of the stream. So
No, it actually the stone's going on top of the ground surface there.
it is, okay.
Yep.
So and that stone what's the size of that stone?
That is 1.5 inch to 3 inches.
Tim, this is Ralph. You might notice in the lower detail that's just on the edge of what is being displayed,
Oh, okay, yeah.
it shows that that stone is wrapped in a geofabric wrap. So
Okay.
that's an important detail because it basically prevents that stabilizing stone from spreading.
You knew exactly where I was going with it, Ralph. I was wondering how
Yeah.
that was occurring, yeah.
It also keeps your gravel fill from washing through that stone as well. So it keeps the stone. It kind of encapsulates it as a footing and doesn't get all kinds of material washing through it and getting in the stream.
What's the lifespan of this bridge? So the homeowner at some point is going to have to replace it, and I can't imagine this is going to be inexpensive.
Well, I know they're in place and working well for the last 5 years in the 2 locations that I personally been involved with. It's a concrete structure. I know the company that produces them. This spec here is a company called Old Castle Precast out of Avon, Connecticut, and they've had pretty good experience, I think, with highway-related concrete products. That's what they specialize in. So it's as good as you can get. I mean, and obviously it's concrete. It probably, like any concrete surface, I don't think I'd get carried away putting salt on it every other day. But obviously, it can be sanded. The approaches to the bridge itself are quite gentle. So I don't think that's an issue with that. They are able. And that's one of the reasons, quite honestly, thinking down the road a little bit, if I had one of these, maybe I'd want some little guideline along either side of it, especially if I had kids starting to drive or something like that. So you might want to have something, even if it's decorative, along the sides of the bridge, and that's where
Like a guardrail or something?
Yeah, and the concrete blocks would allow for you to fasten something along those lines without doing any, intrusions into the bridge structure itself.
Okay, and it is a gentle slope down, so there should be limited salting and that's something that the Conservation Commission could have as a perpetual condition, saying no salt.
Yep.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you, Mr. Popham.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Tim, did you discuss a dewatering plan? Or
Yeah,
when this bridge is getting installed?
I did bring it up, Tracy,
Okay.
and he's apparently they're not excavating. They're building the base of the bridge up, so there's very limited excavation, so they don't anticipate having to dewater.
So building the base up, does that mean filling in the resource area?
No, what they're proposing is they're bridging over the resource area.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to see, I'm a little concerned here because if this bridgeway gets iced over and then what's the homeowner going to use? And without those guardrails, if the bridge is a sheet of ice and the car slides off of it into the stream, then we have an even bigger problem. Anyway, one of my questions about this was that rock wall that's right there. You can see the rock wall has been compromised and water's coming underneath it. Is that a part of your plan? I didn't see anything about that, how that's going to be, if that's a part of this at all. It's just something that I saw that looked like a problem that would only get worse.
No, we came 15, we're about 15 feet off of the wall itself. Right at the wall, I think there's a down large tree on the other property, and I think it's impounded some water and it does come through that wall, but it quickly narrows to the narrower channel area where the bridge is shown. So we're not right up against that wall.
My other question is about the riprap that you're going to use. This commission, that's like a dirty word with this commission, because generally what we see is down from wherever the riprap is, we do see that there can be problems associated, whereas that riprap prevents erosion at that spot. It just pushes it down farther. Have you accommodated for that?
Well, actually, if you go to the detailed view, it's only essentially about a foot out from either side, so it's several feet to any of the wetted channel itself. There's quite a space in there, so it's not really going to be eroded. The riprap itself is more to protect the runoff that's coming off the Crown driveway before it hits the bridge. So it's giving it some place to go on all four corners and to be able to for that driveway runoff to dissipate in 4 different directions.
Is this whole driveway going to be paved, Mr. Popham?
Except, I don't believe they'll pave the surface of the bridge itself. It can be done. I'm not sure that not being a pavement expert, I'm not so sure that the surface stands up that well over time, paving over the concrete like that. But there's nothing to say it couldn't be paved over.
I would just, is there a weight limit or a weight verification for this bridge? Will it take an oil truck?
Yeah, it's an H20 loading, so it will take a truck. I know the delivery trucks are routinely entering those Holden locations.
Okay. I was just wondering where it's not really a footing, it's on trap rock and on a wet surface. I wondered, your oil truck, that's...
Yeah, it's a pre-stressed unit. Oldcastle had spec'd that back on that other project as footings optional.
Okay, thank you.
The nature of my question earlier was, rather than down pressure, I'm thinking of a freeze thaw and, disrupting the joint of two halves and/or a 6-inch wall. The suitability of the soil that the stone goes on, that was my initial question. I don't have the answer. I don't know how deep you have to go to displace. The soil that you suggested that you did tests on was around the septic system. I suspect that it may be a little bit different in the stream channel.
That was my question. Have you done any soil borings where that bridge is going to go?
Yeah, we did, no, not soil borings. But again, the test pitting was pretty consistent across this site. It's essentially it's a sandy loam, topsoil and subsoil, and then the parent material is classified as a sandy loam. We had no groundwater in it in that area. Yeah, I'm not worried about the soil conditions on these two approaches to this bridge. The Holden situation I keep referencing, that was there was a fill material that was in there that wasn't very good quality, and that stone preparation worked quite well with that.
Thank you.
Mr. Popham, will you be able to get, it's a little bit of civil engineering, structural engineering involved. Will you be able to provide a civil or structural, a PE stamp on the plans?
Not on the plans you have in front of you. When that was requested previously, I believe Oldcastle provided shop drawings, can provide stamped shop drawings that will specify this location. So we could follow up with that once approved.
Yeah, I'd be curious to get Nick's opinion on whether or not the plan should be stamped or not. Nick,
Mr.
are you on the
Erickson?
call?
Yep, sorry, I was muted. Nick Erickson here for the record, Commissioner of Public Works, City of Fitchburg. So I think what's being proposed will work. I think for city's liability's sake, the plan should be stamped by a licensed PE. I believe a building permit's going to require that anyways for something like this. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, and I had, is there erosion sedimentation control measures shown on the plan? I can't see that on my screen.
Yes, there's siltation control fence called out on the plan. It says, it's a line that says SF, and it runs from the stone wall of the road along the obviously downstream of of the driveway. And then at the curve in the driveway, it's now running pretty much in tandem, in line with the 25-foot buffer zone on that side. And then it moves sharply away from that as you go along the fill involved with the septic system in the house. So we as soon as possible, we get well beyond the 25-foot buffer with those features. There's some, it also calls out at the crossing of the brook that the silt fence be backed with 24 feet of double-staked straw bales.
Okay, and everything from the silt fence to the house would be loam and seeded then?
Yes.
That would serve as your limit of work?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to circle back to the last couple questions ago, the bridge builders will be doing their own engineering, and we'll have all that for sure, so.
We need to see those plans stamped with a licensed.
Yeah, they'll have that.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Popama, one quick question on the bridge design. Can you clarify the drawing number so that we're always referencing the right thing? I think it's S22 2FI, and I'm not sure what's in the parentheses there.
That's an S. It's my identifier as supplemental.
Okay, thank you.
So that's this one, right?
Yep.
Is there anything else that anyone would like to ask of Mr. Popham? Nick, were you able to review these plans?
No, I didn't get a copy of the plans to review, but I'm happy to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, the commission should not close the hearing until they hear back from DEP, because as stated, the DEP has not seen the plan revisions yet.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, we can continue this. I think we need to continue it until we have time for everybody to review this and to get our information back from DEP. They haven't had a chance to review it, the updated plans. Can I have a motion to continue?
Motion to continue to our April meeting.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor? Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
We hear from Brian. Oh, okay. Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll continue this till next month, and thank you for your attendance tonight, and we appreciate it. All right, so moving forward, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for notice of intent 291 Westminster Street, LLC, repair bridge over Nashua River. Good evening, Mr. Rowe.
Hello, everybody.
It's nice to see you.
Great to see all of you as well.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So for the record, Jamie Rowe from Haley Ward, formerly Whitman and Bingham, and my client this evening is 291 Westminster Street, LLC. I'm sure all of you remember in November, December 2022, you issued an enforcement order for 291 Westminster Street, and you requested we be in attendance for a meeting to discuss the issue. I did come a month late. I apologize for that, but we did have that discussion. The Conservation Commission decided that a notice of intent and plan should be filed, an order of conditions be issued, and follow the correct procedure from that point forward. So Whitman and Bingham did file a notice of intent. with DEP and the Conservation Commission. Would you like the original green cards and receipts? I did email all the abutter notification forms and receipts to Herwin. And I believe I copied everybody, but if you want the originals, I can give you the originals. I have them with me this evening.
Yeah, we can put them in the file.
Sure.
Thank you.
In my understanding today, that DEP did issue a file number for this project. There was a little back and forth between myself and DEP. They had some questions. I answered them, and to be transparent, I copied the chair and I copied Tim Smith on the email, so they were fully informed of what was being discussed. Part of the notice of intent, I did email Mike O'Hara, McKenzie Engineering's report, because I wasn't sure exactly what was done. And I don't think the commission was sure exactly what was done as well. Peter Reynolds from McKenzie Engineering did a report, a final construction control document stamped and signed, and a report dated December 1st, 2022. And he stated that the work that was done to the bridge was to fix, repair, replace, and add new steel members to it. So that was the extent of the structural improvements that were done to the bridge. And Mr. Reynolds rated the bridge at 45 tons. And it is operational and in good condition for traffic. So we did file an as-built plan, an as-built topographic survey of the bridge itself and the surrounding area, showing all the components of the bridge, all the utilities abutting the bridge, the approach, the exit, et cetera, and all the grades. We showed the Nashua River, 100-year floodplain. Nick Erickson was present at the last meeting and did request a copy of the plan and notice of intent, I believe, so I did email Nick the other day, just so that he could take a look at the plan as well and advise you if necessary. So I'm here to answer any questions you have with respect to the filing that you requested.
Thank you,
Herlene, can we
Mr. Rowe.
put the site plan up?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see, let's open the floor for public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor of or against this hearing, or would like to request more information? Please state your name and address for the record. I don't see anyone in person. Do we have anyone on, in our virtual waiting room that would like to speak to this?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
Did it?
No, let's.
Motion to accept the
Hearing none
plan.
from the public. Who was just about to talk? Just a second, Mike.
This is Nick Erickson.
Oh,
I just had one quick question for Jamie. I looked through the plans the other day when he sent them over, and I was just curious, did any of the elevations for the bottom chord of the bridge, the beams, or that insulated sewer line change as a result of any of the work that was done, or is everything that's shown on this plan basically the same as it was prior to being worked on to fix the rotted members and whatnot?
Yeah, so my understanding is none of the elevations changed, Nick, but I did listen to your comments when you were here at the meeting last, and you asked me to get the top and bottom elevation of the pipe sleeve. I believe it's a sewer line that goes manhole to manhole, flows towards Westminster Street, and we did get the top and bottom of that sleeve. And I think your concern at the time was the 100-year floodplain. And the bottom of that sleeve is definitely a little bit lower than the 100-year floodplain elevation of approximately 537. The bottom of the sleeve is about 535.5, plus or minus. Top of the pipe is 536.7.
Okay. It looked like the lateral members, too, were lower than the floodplain elevation, but those go parallel to the direction of flow, so I'm not sure it would cause as much of an impact during a flood event. But I guess the concern would be that sewer line, and I am curious if that was reworked as part of this project, or if that is what it was prior to any of this work being done. it looks like it was refreshed. You know, it stood out to me when I drove past it right after the work was originally completed. So I guess that's a question for the property owners, though.
So my understanding is the sewer line always was present. I believe they sleeved it. I think, you know, right or wrong, good or bad, I think sleeving that sewer line is the right thing to do anyway. But bottom line is I did forward the commission pictures. I don't know if I forwarded them to you, Nick. But you might have them in the folder if you want to put them up, and we can see what we're talking about. But I do have the pictures here.
See if I can find them first.
So then go back to the, if you can you get to the February meeting? Because those pictures were available then, I'm pretty sure. I can get to them on my screen, but I can't display my screen.
So Jamie, we think the sewer line was not sleeved previously, and now they put it in a sleeve, and if so, you know, so what's the sleeve made of? I understand the concern is, so if you have, let's say we had a really significant storm event, we have a flood surge, and maybe some trees fall into the river, and the trees get swept downstream. There's a danger that the tree could hit the sewer line and break it, right? And so that's why perhaps the sleeve provides some protection to the sewer line. Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah, I think the sleeve does provide a lot of protection for the sewer line, but I think what happened is, I know the sewer line existed prior to any of this work, and I think there was an I-beam that was installed. I don't know if it was installed by Unitil. I don't think it was installed by this applicant. And you can see in the picture how they anchored the sewer line to the I-beam that was installed. And I think in order to do that, they had to sleeve it. So sleeving will do two things. It's a structural component. It'll hold it up and make sure it doesn't sag or fall into the river. And if there is a break in the line, it's contained within that sleeve itself. So I think it's double protection, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it's a good idea.
Jamie, what's the sleeve made out of?
I don't know, Tim. It looks like aluminum.
Looks like aluminum.
Yep.
Yeah, and Tim, I agree with Jamie. I think the sleeve provides some protection for that sewer line, and that's an obvious benefit during flood events and whatnot. My only concern is with the FEMA flood elevation, and if that was a modification that lowered essentially the bottom chord of that opening, that directly impacts the conveyance capacity and whatnot. And that's a problem with FEMA. That's not something that I don't know. I guess it's just a little concerning on my end.
So from my point of view, my experience, Nick, doing this for a little bit here, I have yet to file a FEMA application for a utility crossing. I've done it for many other reasons, but I've never done it for utility crossing. If the existing line was there and we're permitting this through the Conservation Commission, that's about the only permit that I think I need to achieve to have that done. So with a valid order of conditions, I would be satisfied with that. I've never done an elevation certificate or a LOMA, CLOMA for a utility line like that. Have you had any experience with that?
I haven't done one with a utility line. You know, it's different when you're talking about like a fill within the floodplain or something like a crossing the flood zone, floodway. So I don't know. I guess that's the question that I have is this a big deal that we should talk to FEMA about, or is it something not to worry about? So I guess I'd rely on your experience, Jamie.
Yeah, I haven't done a LOMA, CLOMA, or elevation certificate for this specific issue at all. But I am looking at the elevations with respect to the bottom of that sleeve and the bottom beams, and the elevations are almost identical. Almost identical.
Right.
Yep.
I know typically you have to file a Chapter 91 permit with the state, with the DEP, and they look very closely if you bring the elevation down. And typically, they're more not concerned about the floodplain. They're looking at it as a navigable waterway, and So, and you, it's highly scrutinized if you're bringing the utility closer to the water. Jamie, do you know if the applicant filed a Chapter 91 permit?
No, a Chapter 91 permit's not required for this type of work.
I'll get back to you on that. And again, that's not within that's neither here nor there, and that it's not the commission's jurisdiction. But we can talk offline about it.
Okay, I'd love to.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Erickson, have you finished with your comments?
Yep, that's all. Thank you, Jamie. Between you and Tim, let me know what you guys hash out to. Just curious for my own knowledge.
Yep. And if we do have that offline conversation, Tim, and we can dial Nick in, if you do think it's required, I'm happy to file the application and go through the process. Don't get me wrong. I just don't, from my experience, think it was necessary. But I'd love to listen to what you have to say on the subject.
Sure. And again, it's not a local, obviously not a local requirement. It would be something that with the state.
Yep.
All right, so this work has already been completed. Do we have a motion and a second?
Motion to accept the plan as submitted.
Second.
Okay, let's call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
But in doing that, how does that affect their conversation if we have to go back?
Well, that conversation relates to the state, doesn't it?
What's that?
Feds. Feds.
The conversation what you and Nick and
Yes.
Tim were talking about,
Yeah,
that's related to the state?
It's a separate permit filed with the state,
Okay.
Chapter 91 license. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's independent from the commission's action.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, you have to unmute your computer, please. There you go.
I'm here, guys, sorry.
How do
Can you
you
hear
vote,
me?
Brian? Yeah, we can hear you. How are you voting?
Voting in favor.
Thank you. Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Rowe.
I'll update everybody on the Chapter 91 license, and is it okay for me to file for certificate of compliance for the next meeting?
I would think so.
We
Yeah.
recommend it, yes.
Okay.
I have one question for Jamie. You have your notice of intent in front of you?
I do.
Your application? Could you tell the commission what fees you paid to come before it?
Sure.
Do you have that one for the notice of intent for them? Yep.
So the notice of intent fee transmittal form was submitted as part of the notice of intent, and the total project fee was $2,175.
That was, am I correct that 50% of that went to the state and 50% of it came to the CONSCOM?
Not quite 50/50, but there is a percentage that goes to each, yes.
Were you aware that there was a fee for the Fitchburg Wetlands Protection Act?
I believe so, yes.
Was that paid?
See if there's a copy of the, let me see if there's a copy of the checks in here.
Michael, you mean Michael, you mean a fine, right?
No, I don't. I mean a fee to apply with an NOI that covers the cost of the Fitchburg Wetlands Ordinance.
Mike, and that's, oh, there's the, Harlene has the checks.
So these are the two checks.
Oh, I have two checks here, Jamie. I believe my question's answered. Thank you.
We usually put a copy of the checks in the notice of intent. I didn't see it, so are you satisfied with the application?
Well, now you brought up the fine, or excuse me, Ralph brought up the fine. Perhaps that check was the fine and not.
That was paid.
That was
Time
paid.
back.
Yeah,
Very
That was
good.
paid.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
that
it.
was paid. Yeah, that was paid prior to filing the notice of intent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was mentioned in the minutes from the last meeting.
Yeah.
I recall.
All set?
Thank you, Mr.
See you next
Rowe.
month for the certificate of compliance.
Nice
Everybody have
to
a
see
great
you.
night.
Okay. Now, for the request for determination of applicability, BAC Properties LLC, 549 and 555 Westminster Street, underground utility trench for rooftop solar array. Do we have, who's here for that? Do we have anyone here for that?
There's only one name that I don't know is associated, they're on,
Schmid,
yeah, that is Schmid.
Andreas Schmid, he's up there
Yeah.
now.
Yep,
Andreas?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Hi there, how are you today?
Mr. Schmidt, are you here to talk about the request for determination of applicability?
Well, yes, I'm caught a little off guard here, I admit, because Steve Gregory, who's our Vice President of Construction at Select Energy, who would hopefully be installing these projects, is not in attendance. He was going to be there in person, and I don't see him on the Zoom, so I don't know why he's not there, so I apologize. But essentially what we're looking to do is put in 2 short trenches that are within the 200-foot buffer from the river at 549 and 555 Westminster Street, which are adjacent to each other. This would be in the back of those buildings. Essentially, the trenches are in already disturbed area, in the driveways, the sort of dirt or gravel driveways. And the trenches would be not very deep, essentially, just deep enough to meet electrical code requirements. It's a couple feet deep. And running, I think about 50 feet maximum. There you go. Yeah, that's 549. So you see the red trench line there. And that would be an electrical conduit trench running to a pole that Unitil will be installing with transformers and a meter on the pole. So that'll be a new pole. There's an existing pole that you see there. So they'd be putting in a new pole for the solar transformers. And in order to interconnect our system, we'll need to run the electrical conduit to that pole. And that would be the only work that we'd be completing. Unitil will likely have to come before you for the permit to put in the pole. But this would just be pertaining to our work that runs the electrical conduit from the building to that Unitil-owned pole that they'll install. So in this case, it's 19 feet. I believe it's 50 feet for 555 Westminster.
So, Mr. Schmidt, 549, what are you doing at 549?
549 and 555 Westminster would both be having solar installed on the roofs.
No, I mean the trench that you're talking about. You said 2 short trenches?
You see that trench there, it's the red dotted line right there, exactly. So we just need essentially permission from you to dig that trench, to put in the electrical conduit between the building and the utility pole. And we're seeking that permission because it is within 200 feet of the river. Steve Gregory, as I mentioned, who was supposed to be here, he did confirm in a phone call that we do need to have this meeting with you to do this work.
That's correct. What you're asking for, though, is do you need an NOI, a notice of intent, or is it okay to not submit a notice of intent?
I think that is the question. Essentially within 200 feet of the river, we would intend to, with that work, make sure that we're not allowing any kind of runoff to carry sediment into the river. So we would have to put in some sort of controls for that. I imagine that we need, this isn't my area of expertise, frankly, but I imagine we need to put in some sort of silt fencing, correct?
Mr. Schmidt, what's your timeline on this?
We likely won't be starting construction until late summer at the earliest.
So we have time, we can have this next month when your associate is able to come and talk with us about this.
Yes, that's true. He does live in Chicago. So I don't know, it makes me worry a little bit that he's not there. I wonder what held him up, potentially, flight delays or something like that. But he is back and forth between Chicago, and as many people do these days, he works remotely. I live in the Berkshires myself, so if I had known that he wouldn't have been there, I would have been there in person myself and better prepared. So I apologize. But yes, we do have time. The utility is waiting for us to submit final interconnection service agreement payments. We've already submitted 25% deposits to the tune of $60,000. We need to submit another $80,000 to them now, but we have requested extensions for these two properties for reasons of approvals that we need to get from you. We have the checks written, we're ready to submit them, but ultimately, this would hold up submittal of those checks. It's not really a big deal, but.
Madam Chair, this
Yes,
Tim
Mr.
speaking.
Smith.
Can I ask a question of the applicant?
Please.
Yeah, do you know if it's, so I think I'm familiar with the site. Are you trenching in asphalt? So you make your saw cuts, you dig up the asphalt, then you bring your excavator in or your backhoe, you dig the trench, you put in your PVC conduit sleeve, and then you backfill with either flowable fill, or you use the spoils from the excavation. And then you pave over it, and so it's really a temporary impact. Did I just describe the construction, or is it something different than that?
Yes, that is correct, except that there is no pavement in the area that we're digging. So,
okay, so
we would just
soil.
refill the trenches with the spoils from the excavation.
So no change in grade?
No change in grade, no cutting or patching of pavement necessary. It's just digging the trench, putting in the conduit, and refilling the trench with the spoils and compacting it. And then we'd be done. Pull out the silt fence and we'd be done.
But it's a gravel area, right?
It is, yeah. It's
not
a gravel. Correct. It's a gravel area there in the back of the building, between the building and the river.
So I would recommend to the commission that they advise the applicant that the applicant file a request for determination of applicability. So when you file a request for...
We did.
You did, okay.
Yes, yeah.
So it's up to the commission to determine if they want to issue a negative determination, and a negative determination would mean that they don't think that there will be an impact to the resource area, so therefore you do not have to file a notice of intent. On the other hand, the commission could issue a positive determination of applicability. A positive determination means that the commission finds that there could be an impact to the resource area, and therefore they want you to file a notice of intent so they could get more detailed information.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Ralph is asking, yep.
Go ahead. Dr. Baker.
So I don't have much of a concern about 549, but 555 is very close to where the remediation was carried out that we observed, you know, for a couple of years. And there were PCB contaminated soils in that area, in both the bank and in the sediments under the river. So I am concerned that I think the applicant needs to demonstrate that the location of this 36-foot-long proposed trench is going to be in a clean zone.
Yeah, that has been demonstrated by the engineering firm that handled the remediation. We consulted with them extensively, and they looked into it, and they confirmed that this is not in that remediation area and not close enough to it to be of any concern.
All right, then I would suggest that information needs to be submitted along with the supporting information for this request for determination of applicability, please.
Okay, we can do that.
Has that been submitted? We don't have that information. Yeah, we're going to need that.
So
No,
should
that
we
wasn't-
continue until next month for them to provide additional information?
Yeah, I think we need the other gentleman here. It will give you a chance, Mr. Schmidt, to submit the paperwork that Dr. Baker wanted to see. And
Or do we move right to notice of intent so that we can condition?
okay.
No, Joyce, I don't think that's necessary. If they satisfy us that we could issue a negative determination, I don't know. I'm not one to add excessive burdens if it's not necessary.
Right, but and as Ralph said, they just need to submit the supporting documentation that it's not contaminated.
So to our application that was already submitted, we can add what would be sufficient, a map of the remediation that shows that these two areas for 549, 555 in particular are not close to that remediation area, or maybe a letter from the engineering firm, or?
Yeah, I would say either of those might be sufficient, just as long as they're clear.
Okay, understood.
Could you include a window of how long the trenches would be, well, from start to completion? A window of time?
Yeah, it would be a day. We would have those trenches dug and the conduit installed and backfilled and compacted in a day. Those are very short conduit runs and trench lines, and not deep. And we don't have to do concrete sleeves or anything like that because they're not in a drive area, so people wouldn't be driving through with trucks or anything. So pretty simple, quick work.
I believe it's a day, yeah.
All right, so do we want to carry this to next month so we can get the rest of the information to review?
Yes, please.
And find our missing engineer.
Okay. Yeah, we'll make sure in that time frame we supplement the application with that info from the engineering firm that handled the remediation. And I'll find out from Steve Gregory where he is. Maybe I should send him a text now. But I appreciate your time. Thank
So,
you.
Motion to continue to the April 5th meeting, and the applicant is to provide the additional information that we just discussed.
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Bro, here, hold on.
I'm here. I'm okay with that. Aye.
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Commissioner Christian,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Helene,
Aye.
thank you. Commissioner Jacobs,
Aye.
the chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, let's move on to other business. And the first thing we have is Mad River. Is
John
Attorney
Barrett
Bartlett
is,
here?
Attorney Barrett is online.
Hello, Madam Chairwoman. John Barrett here. I think the only thing we have to report on the status and update is the bond. We met by telephone today with Mr. Erickson, with Mr. Allen, Mr. DeNuvo, and I believe Evan from ERM, and we went over the estimate based on the work that had been done, already completed, and what was left to do. And I believe Nick has reviewed that, and we have the proposed bond, which is appearing on the screen now.
Madam Chair, if I could just interrupt for a minute. Because of the conflict with the abutter, I will not participate in any discussion, but I'm monitoring the part of the Zoom meeting, so. I will
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of hard for you to step out of the room, Joyce.
Are all parties comfortable with that number?
We are, yes, and I have to credit Nick. You know, he was very good, you know, trying to resolve this. I think there were some mistakes as far as the what was at play actually that we resolved in our discussion. So clarifying those things, I think that this is a very you know, doable and fair bond amount.
Madam Chair, what does our engineer say?
Mr. Erickson? Is he still there? Is Nick still on?
Yep, I'm still here. Thanks, everybody. Attorney Barrett summed it up nicely. We went over a lot of the initial assumptions that were made when I prepared the original bond estimate. We clarified what was part of the restoration scope versus what would be included in the solar field scope once that eventually goes to construction. And then we confirmed what's been completed and what is still outstanding. So that the number you see before you is I feel comfortable with the number as a true representation of what it would cost if this project were to cease all activity like right now and the city needed to step in and complete the work.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that they broke down the numbers. It makes they're showing the basis for the bond amount, which makes the whole process very transparent, and I think it looks to be extremely well done.
If I might, Madam Chair, I would like to give credit to Nick for this spreadsheet, quite frankly. He pulled this all together, and I think, you know, meeting with us today by telephone, we reviewed some of the things that, you know, we felt were matters that were already done, and maybe some misapprehensions about some of the work that was needed to be done. And so I have to give credit to Nick for coming up with this. It is a very good, I think, way of displaying what's at issue.
Thank you. Did we need to accept this? Are we done?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone, then.
Madam Chair, I guess the only question I think we did, we weren't sure, and I know Mr. DeNuffel couldn't be here tonight, but I think he had an email with Nick about how you did want to get the bond, and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was just a check that would be held by the city treasurer, is something like that?
Yeah, I know in the past, a cashier's check would be given to Mike O'Hara, and he would hang on to it or deposit it into one of the treasurer's accounts and then issue it back to the applicant upon satisfactory completion of the work. But I know I saw Liz Murphy in the audience, and I know Herlin's here tonight. So that process might be a little bit different with Mike gone, so I'd defer to them on how they'd like to handle that, really.
Thanks.
Liz Murphy is acknowledging that they can accept the check and cash it and put it into an account and take care of the process. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman, and
Just get that to Liz, okay?
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
I was going to say cash works.
I don't know that you want.
Small denominations only, Mike.
Okay, so moving on, we've got the Rain Barrel program. I want to say, I don't remember the name of the Mark. Okay, I didn't remember which Mark it was.
McNamara.
Oh, okay. Is he still on the call?
I don't see that.
So Mark is not here tonight.
Okay.
I know I've been involved with this, so I can speak to it a little bit. Jeff probably could too, but this is the 4th year in a row, I believe, that we're offering a Rain Barrel program to the citizens of Fitchburg and surrounding communities. So what we've been able to do in past years is offer a substantially reduced cost for rain barrels for residents of the city. Essentially, we used a company called the Great American Rain Barrel Company. They provide the rain barrels. They've got an ordering form set up on their website. So it's a seamless process. Residents can submit orders ahead of time, and then typically we take delivery sometime towards the beginning of summertime, late June, early July. We typically have those rain barrels delivered to either the West Wastewater Treatment Plant or Broad Street, whatnot, and residents can come pick them up and take them home. So in past years, the cost of running this program typically runs, I believe it's around $3,500 or so dollars, and the cost is shared between the Conservation Commission, the DPW Stormwater Account, and the DPW Wastewater Enterprise Fund. So I think all three of these kind of groups have a co-benefit of these rain barrels. So they've reduced the amount of stormwater runoff from impervious surfaces such as rooftops and allow for reuse, watering gardens and lawns and flowers and whatnot. And it's a way to offset the impact of impervious cover on our natural water bodies. So it provides an environmental benefit. It takes that roof runoff and any contaminants that might be in the runoff and allows it to get soaked up by plants and vegetation. So there's a water quality improvement that can be realized. And it's a good way to conserve water and reduce the amount of water that's coming out of our tap, our faucets from the city's water supply. So it benefits conservation, it benefits the wastewater division, benefits DPW, the EPA, who manages our municipal separate storm sewer system. Permit likes that we put on this program every year, so it's a good thing to show them that we do. The program itself has fantastic response over the past 3-4 years. Each year we sell, I believe it's over 100 rain barrels, which is pretty cool. So the ask here would be the same as it has been in previous years, where the Conservation Commission votes to fund approximately 1/3 of the total rain barrel sales through this program. within the upcoming sales period. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I know we've talked with Liz Murphy also about getting a representative from DPW and the Great American Rain Barrel Program at the city's Earth Day event that community development is putting on. So we're excited to do that. And like I said, happy to answer any other questions that you have.
So approximately $1,200. Is that what it is? Oh.
I believe that was the number. I don't have my email open in front of me. I think it was around between 1,000 and 1,200 over the past several years for each of the departments involved.
I'd like to move that we vote to participate in this program.
I would second that.
A hint of discussion?
Okay. Mary, did you have a comment?
I was just seconding it, but.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike, what do you?
Okay. Did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, sure. I worry about spending money. I don't do backflips on this program. I think it's a feel-good program. I think DPW has skin in the game, the sewer has skin in the game, and the Conservation Commission is asked to have skin in the game. And we're all working to alleviate issues caused by development. So my question is where's the skin in the game on those that would increase water runoff and quality, et cetera? Where is that skin in the game? Who else is being asked to contribute other than those persons that are trying to rectify a problem that is created by development? That's a question, and I still not crazy about the rain barrel program.
Okay, so we have thank you, Commissioner Donnelly. Thank you.
There's a question on the floor. Is there any element of development in the city that has skin in the game? We're left to control their actions. The DPW, sewer, and Conscom. Has anyone else been asked to contribute to the rain barrel program by those that are running the program? That's my question.
I can answer that, Commissioner Donnelly. We, as DPW, have not asked anyone else besides the three entities that we're talking about right now to participate. I think some of the application fees that go to the city for NOI filings and whatnot get put in a Conservation Commission account, and I guess this is use of those funds, so I guess you could argue that developers are paying the bill through the Conservation Commission, but I guess that's just one way of looking at it.
I accept that.
So
I also just want to mention really quickly, I just brought up my email last year, the total bill to the Conservation Commission, DPW, and Wastewater Enterprise Funds were $946.33 each. So a little bit under $1,000.
Go ahead, make your motion.
It's already been made.
There's a motion on the table. And this does speak to our mission, the education part of our mission as well.
That's kind of what I was thinking too, Tracy. Our commission name bears the term conservation, and I just think that backs, the awareness, at least, of natural resources, and I kind of see that falling into this funnel.
And to Michael's concern, I'm not aware that the planning board or the building department have funds available to them to contribute to something like this the way that we do. Am I wrong?
I would say, or education is part of their missions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Two more devil's advocates, if you will, developers. I know you gave me a rationale. They do pay up front. But then the other one is, sorry if I'm selfish, but what's the business about outside of our community? We're offering rain barrels outside of our community at a discounted rate. That's all well and good, but we are paying for them.
No.
So
Go ahead,
non-residents
Nick.
can purchase, sorry,
Nick.
non-residents can purchase through the program, but they're not allowed to obtain the subsidized rate that's offered to the citizens of Fitchburg.
Oh, well then.
So say someone in Westminster knows about the program, they can purchase one through the company. It'll just be at a higher rate than someone that lives in Fitchburg.
And as I recall, in the last 4 years, we had many people from outside of Fitchburg that came and picked up their barrels here. But the only people getting the subsidy are citizens of Fitchburg.
Right.
Mollifies you. So I'm going to call the roll now. We have a motion on the table, and it sounds like it's approximately $940 odd. And we don't get the full amount until after people order their barrels. We've got Commissioner Bro.
I support the alignment for the city's rain program, barrel program.
Thank you. Commissioner Baker.
Aye.
Commissioner Christian.
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly.
Enthusiastically, aye.
Commissioner Helene.
Definitely an aye.
Commissioner Jacobs.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. And acknowledges Commissioner Donnelly's enthusiastic aye, which has changed.
Well, like you said, it's an educational thing, and I'm learning all the time.
Motion passes.
That's the spirit, Mike.
I have a question, Tracy.
Go ahead.
I have a question. I was asked by a neighbor about a lot of flagging and surveying marks on the brook that feeds the reservoir on Ashby West Road. Do we know anything about what's going on there?
No, but Nick?
I figured Nick would.
I do know exactly what's going on there. So we applied for and obtained a grant through the Municipal Culvert Replacement Assistance Program to design replacements for 2 culverts that go beneath Ashby West Road. One is along Falula Brook, which feeds into Lovell, and another is along a tributary that converges with the brook just downstream of the Ashby West crossing. So the marks are from the surveying that we've done to kind of begin that design process.
Thank you. I had a neighbor that walks there, up and down Ringe Road, and he asked me, and I had no idea. I went by, and there's certainly a lot of flagging and, surveying. So I told him that I would ask. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joyce, the violation notice on 170 Arnhow Farm Road. Do we have an update?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I'd like to bring everyone up to date. We knew previously that there was a wetlands violation at 170 Arnhow Farm Road when it was owned by the Slocums. It was pursued vigorously for some period of time. I did send out, everybody should have a copy of the timeline that we were able to recreate as to when the violation enforcement order went out, when plans were submitted for restoration, and all of that. Now, the question becomes, the Slocums don't own the property anymore. The property has been sold. However, we know that in the Wetlands Act that the violation stays with the property. It doesn't go away just because the owner has changed. So now the discussion becomes, and what I would like to open to the floor is, do we want to pursue the new owners for the violation? We need to inform them, first of all, if we do want to go ahead. The timeline shows that Mr. Slocum, several other people, there was engineering firms involved, Mary Ann DePietro was involved as far as some restoration of that. So it was very clear that there was a violation there. And if that was not relayed to the new owners, unfortunately, that is not the Conservation Commission's problem. That the new owners are still responsible in some way to rectify this issue. So my question before the commission is, first of all, do we want to pursue the violation, continue the new violation with the new owners being involved? And if so, we'll put a motion on the floor to at least send them a violation notice and start to get them involved in the process. If anybody has any questions, by the way, on the timeline, I'd be happy to answer any of that so that everybody's comfortable with where this was. Madam Chair?
I have a question. As I recall, the original violation was that an area that was altered was habitat for an endangered species.
Yes.
Yeah. And I guess my initial concern is, was that resolved?
No.
Did we ever get any resolution on that? I know Mary Ann DePinto, she went in and did some work, but I don't know that we ever got any follow-through on the work that was done there.
I was not able to find documentation that there has been any resolution whatsoever for either the fill that was placed in the buffer zone or any accommodations for, I believe it's turtles.
Mm-hmm.
In that area and how that was being handled. Nothing was done with the Slocums.
I'd invite Tim Smith to chime in. I'm aware of what was done for the violation. I'm aware of the remediation that Mary Ann DePinto presented and the work that they said that they did. And I'm wondering if there were any loose ends beyond that other than further violations of dumping. So dumping continued after that. That was a violation. But Tim, do you know if there were anything left open from our site visit and/or her last report of bringing back the soil outside of the wetland?
No, Mike, you're exactly right. There was work that took place to restore the filled-in wetland, and there was a report and some photo documentation that was submitted to the commission. What didn't happen was a final review to make sure that the site was fully in compliance. And you're also correct that there continued to be dumping after that, not in the wetlands, but close to the wetlands. And the issue was brought up. There was a chicken coop that was built in the buffer zone. But you're absolutely right, Mike. There was some restoration work that was completed. And there was Mary Ann DePinto had submitted a report with photo documentation of that restoration work. And remember, they needed to get the work done by April because that was after April's the breeding habitat time for the turtle. And so they were working, and it was, I remember there was snow on the ground, but they continued, and I believe they got the work done, Mike, but no one ever did a final inspection to make sure they were fully in compliance with the enforcement order.
And do you recall, if I may, Madam Chair, do you recall, if you remember the detention pond or rain garden, did we resolve that? Was that removed prior to or after the work that was done? Do you know if that was part of the? I'm a little lost at the timeline there.
Mr. Donnelly, I have on that in March of 2021, per a letter that Mr. Pinto sent on Mr. Slocum's behalf, quote, based on the concerns raised by the commission, they will remove the plans to construct the rain garden and any other work within the 100-foot buffer zone, only work to restore and stabilize the buffer with erosion control seed mix and wood chips will be done.
Thank you, I get it. So Tim, we were waiting, and we never went out for the last inspection. That's where we are right now, as far as I know. And then continued dumping. That was an issue with me because I saw it after the fact, and it expanded the activity that we discouraged in the first place. So
Correct.
and I have pictures of that dumping after the fact as well. I don't know that they're dated, but I know that I have pictures of them.
The other issue, I did take a walk by, because I was not involved in this project on the commission when this first started. But when they talk about, and wood chips, it appears that they put wood chips all over the parking lot to kind of stabilize some of the dirt that was there. But now all those wood chips are washing into the wetland. So we've got to figure out how that's going to be addressed.
That sounds like a violation.
Yeah.
as well.
Well, it was, that was the additional dumping, illegal dumping, and that was over near where the rain garden was going to be constructed. They just expanded their surface area, that's all. And, well, to that end, we can drop it, and that can happen time and time again. We can pursue it. We can all learn along the way, including the buyer. And the burden is on the buyer to chase the seller and not on the Conservation Commission to fret over our decision.
Yes, it's always difficult because there's been a change of ownership in the middle of this process. And it's probably, very unlikely that the new owners know that this even exists. So when we send the notice, they're going to get a very surprised letter in the mail, but we will bring them in and just have to explain the process to them, and hopefully they're willing to work with us to resolve the situation so that everybody's compliant.
Yeah, I think it's important to work towards compliance. And
So the first order of business would be if we decide that we're going to pursue the new owners to continue to get a resolution to this violation, we need to send them a notice. I will work with Liz and Herlin about doing a violation notice, just a letter. We don't have to do it as an enforcement order or anything at this point. As the weather gets better, we can set a site meeting. We'll have them come in, explain to them the process, set up a site meeting, and start the process of getting it resolved.
I'd like to move that we do as Joyce just described.
All right, so, motion to send the new owners of 170 Arnhouse Farm Way a violation notice letter.
Seconded.
all right, let's call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
I'm in favor of pursuing the new buyer. Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian, he's recused himself. Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Helene has recused herself from this. Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
And Commissioner Sarfield says aye. So that motion passes.
Tracy, just for the record, I just wanted to state, actually, I was wondering if Commissioner Helene had recused herself as an abutter, but I was on her property as of recently, and I think it is important to speak to this. I was observing, the Slocum lot, or the former Slocum lot, and I actually spotted a couple of bald eagles on that lot in the tree at the base of the plot itself. So whether or not they're nesting, but I just think it does speak to the the importance of how it needs to be treated delicate up there. That's all.
Cool.
Thank you, Commissioner Bro. There's the bald eagles?
They've been there every day, so the big beaver pond across the street, apparently the beavers are gone, and that's drying out, and I've seen those beavers almost every day. I mean, those eagles, almost every day, yeah.
It's, it's something good to see for the north part of Fitchburg. It's it's a delicate corridor, and if the eagles have found it, I just think it's important to know.
I believe they're nesting on Stodge Meadow, and they're quite common now.
Reservoir, they're all over the reservoir.
That's awesome. I actually saw an eagle. I was driving through downtown recently, and I saw an eagle. I pulled my car over just to watch it. It was a bald eagle flying over downtown Fitchburg, so.
Yeah, sometimes I see them too, their numbers are up, and it's good to see that.
I definitely see them like every day, so I take it for granted because Brian, like he said, was over here and he saw bald eagles, and then he's like, "Have you seen them again since?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's a common occurrence up here."
So on another note, the beavers are gone, and that pond, I noticed the pond is drying up when I was there recently.
So Howie Sumner still works out of there, so I talked to him, and the beavers are gone.
Where'd they go?
I don't know.
Eagles scared them away.
Yeah, they're gone.
That's 50 acres of hay that he might be able to
Yeah.
get.
So that's a bummer because it's going to be an eyesore while it dries out, but it's,
It is gonna dry out.
you know, it used to be dry, so I guess that makes the most sense.
Beavers come and beavers go.
Yeah.
If anybody, just on that same beaver note, Putz Pond, there's the beaver family that's in charge of Putz Pond. It's amazing what's going on there.
Colony.
Where's that?
It's the one that's over John Fitch Highway and
North Street. North.
North, yeah, North and John Fitch.
And it's getting larger right now?
What was that?
And it's getting larger because of beavers right now?
Oh, well, the beavers had a huge dam over the whole summer during the drought. That place was filled. Right, just recently, one of the dams burst, and they've really shored it up. Like, they really are making it a better dam this time around. It's pretty amazing.
Sending out their repair crews.
Yeah, well, I walk there almost every day, and I look at it. So it's been very exciting. But I think that's from the same colony. As I recall, the professor who came and spoke with us about it, it's the same group that started up at the high school and have moved all the way down that corridor.
Communication is key.
Food is.
Yeah, they're going where the food is. All right, so next we've got, thank you. Next we've got
So.
forest cutting plan.
Commissioner Jacobs asked me about the cutting plan on Westminster Hill Road, Barclay Enterprises. So I was with Chris Carponi, and I asked him, I made him aware that we no longer had Mike O'Hara or anyone to look at it. So he has the cut plan, and I asked him if he would go up and verify where the intermittent streams were, and he said he went up and he reflagged it. He made some minor changes, but as far as he could tell, that this plan was going to be, signed off on probably yesterday. He also asked, so as it is right now, it's a short-term cut. It's not a long-term management plan. And he wanted to know if the city had any prior permitting on that lot. And Commissioner Jacobs checked, and she didn't find that we had any previous permitting on that lot. So when he was up there flagging it or checking the flagging, a lot of neighbors approached him, and we all know where this is going. It's a short-term cut. There's no plans in place. It's not under a 61 or a 61A or B, so we'll be seeing this plan again. But as far as the state forester is concerned, and his job is only to see that it's done in a workmanlike manner. He can't control it any more than that. So as he sees it right now, the plan is good to go. So I just wanted to make, we'll be seeing that property again soon.
Thank you. Let's see.
Do we have a certificate of compliance for 92 Kyle Road?
That wasn't on here. Let's
Well,
see.
that just came in late, and that was in some of the email chain that we had going back and forth. There was an attorney at the very end of last week that submitted a request. They're doing a sale of property, 92 Kyle Road, which was in Candlewood Park. There is an open order of condition that's there from, it's extremely old. 1994, 95. And the way that Mr. O'Hara has been dealing with these is, as they come up, rather than doing a carte blanche order of compliance for the entire project, there was a couple previous that we're just issuing a compliance for that one lot. Tim and I were back and forth this weekend with some of the other commissioners. Tim spoke to some of the commissioners that were on this board years ago. They do not remember that there were any issues. There were no violations. So it appears that the project is clear to go, and we are okay to approve a certificate of compliance, just as a partial certificate for 92 Kyle Road, so that they can proceed with the sale.
Is that a motion on the table?
Yeah, so I would, if, Tim, you were comfortable with all the responses that you got over the weekend from previous commissioners?
Yeah, I was. And so I actually talked to John Cooten, and John, not only was John on a commission, but he lives up at Candlewood Park. So he was one of the first buyers. And so I knew that he would be aware of any violations. I do recall that the planning board had an issue with the construction of the roadway, but I don't recall the Conservation Commission having any issues with that particular development.
So I would motion that we issue the certificate of compliance for 92 Kyle Road.
Seconded.
All right, let me call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
He's muted.
Commissioner Baker, you're on.
Sorry about that. I was muted and I was on a different screen. Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so we can, do you have that? Do we have that certificate of compliance?
Yeah, Herlin, did you bring that with you?
We couldn't update it, so I have to update the actual issuance too. So no. It was issued to an old attorney's office, the original, the one Mike printed out, so it's incorrect.
Okay.
But I
Yeah,
can print
and
it out in the
can't get him
office
to
and bring
work-
it, I can bring it back down in like 2 minutes if you want.
We can,
Who could sign on behalf?
Just sign
Can
it.
Liz sign on behalf of the commission?
well, I mean, I can just go and sign.
Or I can stop by and sign it too. So I mean, any of us can, so we can, whatever easiest
can do
for
that.
everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can have it printed either first thing in the morning or after the meeting. It's just that
You can go home after the meeting.
Yeah.
we had the wrong attorney's information in there, so I have to just verify that.
All right, but if Liz, if you're acting as our conservation agent in the interim, we can just sign, as Mike did, on behalf of the commission, Liz Murphy, acting conservation agent, and it'll process that way.
Are you okay with that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, let's see, there was, just to bring it to everyone's attention, there was correspondence that went on from a group that wanted to talk about fluoridation of the drinking water. Liz brought to their attention that that was non-jurisdictional for the Conservation Commission. They did not show up tonight to address the commission. And,
Tracy, who is that?
pardon me?
Who didn't come to before us
Oh,
tonight
there was
regarding fluorination?
Yeah, people wanted to talk about adding fluoride to the drinking water. That's not our jurisdiction.
Adding? Don't we already
Oh,
put
no.
fluoride in Fitchburg?
Yeah, the request was, there's an initiative to remove the fluoride in the water.
And Liz was kind enough to collaborate with the stakeholders to explain to them why that wasn't a part of our jurisdiction. And that brings me to my next thank you to Liz and Herlin and Joyce and Nick and Mike O'Hara. I've seen his email floating back around. And Tim, and to everybody involved. I just want to do a group thank you because it's been incredible over the last couple weeks to see how everybody's really banded together and until the new person gets onboarded. And I want to thank everybody. All the commissioners, your efforts are clearly show your commitment to conservation and public service. I want to thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. And on that note, I think we need a motion and a second to adjourn.
Madam Chair, we
I'm
have
sorry.
one more issue two. Okay. One more being Hollis Hill Farm, just so that it's on everybody's radar. We had an abutter
That's correspondence. Yeah, no, that goes
Yeah,
under
that was correspondence that was there. There were emails actually from building commissioner, from the building commissioner that said they're working under really a federal conservation agency, and they have the permit. There had been one issued in the past, but I guess they're doing some other work according to that. We're not sure whether or not this is even jurisdictional for our commission. It just depends on where are they getting the water from, rather than if it's coming from a brook or a stream or something, but nothing was conditioned with us. And I know it was a concern of an abutter.
Nick Erickson also mentioned special permit and that the location of the actual area view was different. Nick, I know that you're still here, but I'm not sure if you want to comment on that.
Sure. So I had remembered an application from a couple of years ago. So Hollis Hills did submit a notice of intent for excavation of an irrigation pond, but that was on the 885 Fisher Road parcel, where they had also permitted a solar field. So the aerial view, and I think the photograph that was sent in by the resident looks like a different location. So I think it's probably a different spot on the adjacent Hollis Hills parcel. I know Latanzi owns both of them anyways, but I don't know. I haven't had time to go out and check the site out myself just to confirm where the work's taking place and see where it is in proximity to that site that was permitted a couple of years ago. But if the resident was mistaken and maybe they were further north than they thought they were, there is a chance, I guess, that it could be work related to that project that was permitted a few years ago. But I think we just need to look into it a little bit more. But it sounds like maybe the building commissioner already has. So I got to follow up with Mark and take a ride out there myself.
Thanks, Nick.
So Nick, I guess if you do get a chance to get out there, I guess, again, some of this may not even fall under our jurisdiction. So our question is where is the water for that pond coming from? And if they're pumping it in actually from the city water supply and just holding it in that pond, I don't know. But then we could reply to the abutter that said this is where you need to address your concerns if there are any, or it is something that would be under our purview.
Okay, I'll get some more information and I'll forward it along to the commission. Well, I'll forward it along to Herlin, and Herlin, I think you've got an email address for everyone, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I just want to make sure I don't miss anyone by accident. So if you could help with getting that information out once I can get it, that'd be awesome.
Of course, yes.
I guess just on this topic, I understand that they have special permitting because they are agricultural, but last time they did have to come before us when they proposed the plan, and that was like a couple years ago. So I guess along with I think Joyce and a few others, I'm curious if this is the pond because I haven't seen it yet, and if not, yeah, I guess just do we have jurisdiction? Why I don't see why we wouldn't have some sort of jurisdiction on it because of the way our bylaws are created in the city, but I don't know.
Okay, well, so we're going to have to wait to get more information about this.
Yeah, okay.
It sounds like,
Can I bring up just a couple things, to make it quick? Protocol for filing an NOI for adherence to the Wetlands Protection Act at one time stated that 7 hard copies would be provided to Conservation Commission volunteers, and 1 copy would remain in the office on file. Does that still exist? It was the burden on the applicant. And the reason I bring this up is because tonight I was brought to my attention on the screen of red lines where a trench was going to be. There were a lot of red lines up there, and then he said, what did he say, 36 feet or 1 day's work? I was blown away. I thought it was a month's work, and I know how long it takes to dig a trench. I thought there were a lot of trenches. And then secondly, the bond amount itemization on Ashburnham Street, I couldn't read that either. And with glasses, I have 20/20. But additionally, when it comes to plans, plans are studied. So the idea of showing up on one night and looking at a plan that you got electronically over the weekend, it's not cutting it for me. So if the protocol has changed, all well and good. I am not aware of that. And if it was 7, when did it change? Or why aren't we adhering to that protocol? Now we have some new faces on look it up. If I'm wrong, correct me. But a hard copy, well before our meeting, is encouraged and requested because I'd rather study a plan. A lot of our questions could be answered if we had time to study a plan ahead of this meeting.
so as a follow-through on that, Commissioner Donnelly, and just letting both of you know, our rule is 7 days before, 1 week before the meeting, everything has to be turned in. Anything that's turned in after does not come on the agenda for that meeting. And we really stick to that one. So we should have everything in place.
Yes,
And that's just to give everybody time because you have a lot of other items to
So,
work on.
Madam Chair, if I could intervene here. So that was actually one of the things that I wanted to address as part of the wrapping up of the meeting. One was an email that we were able to obtain today as a department for you all, and I wanted to make it public so that everybody was aware. And 2 was meeting materials. It's highlighted here. So I am very new at this, and I'm navigating some waters that I've never trenched before. But for the planning board, I have adjusted some things accordingly. I'm very much a type A, and you will see. So we have a process and procedures that I've put in place where applicants have to submit materials by a certain date, and then those materials are forwarded to all department heads and the planning board members. And I can also do, my question was, would the Conservation Commission also like for me to put this in place with the approval of the interim conservation agent, our executive director, Liz Murphy? I can also do the same thing for you guys if that works well. Materials will be emailed or be ready for you, usually 2 weeks prior to the meeting, if I can. If I cannot, a week prior is suffice. So if you all are in accordance to that, I can definitely get that done.
Yeah, just to have all the documents submitted 2 weeks prior and then hopefully get to us by 2 weeks or 1 week prior. That's all, that's what the protocol that you're talking about is?
Yes. So there's a set timeline for at least the planning board, and we've kind of adjusted everything in the past month to kind of really adhere to that. And it worked well last night. It worked very well. Applicants were able to answer questions from DPW before the meeting, and it just worked. So my question tonight was if you guys would like for that to be implemented. I don't really know what the protocol is. I didn't know that the NOIs, you needed 7 copies. I was aware of 4 copies, but not 7.
The number is 7 members. That's where the number 7 came from. Am I old school to request a hard copy as opposed to an electronic copy?
Yes,
Am
you
I?
are.
Okay. While I may be old school, every engineer comes in with a hard copy.
True, but, and so.
That's okay, a hard copy.
Well, what we should do is that I would prefer to work off a electronic copy. But there are commissioners that may want hard copies, but you know, if there's only 3 or 4, then just save the paper and the work
Certainly
and just
be.
make
Yeah,
3 or 4.
exactly.
Hard copies are not an issue, and there's also a legality of drop boxes with limited time for public records. So we switched over the planning board to the website, which is permanent, forever. There's an definite amount of space, so we can upload multiple items forever, and it kind of erases that legality issue of having documents available for the public.
This is great. We started using Dropbox during the quarantine just as a way of being more efficient. So, no, this is great.
Okay.
Respectfully, past protocol, the burden's on the applicant, not on you, for hard copies. And when it changed, if it did change, I don't know about it. And therefore, the burden is still on him and not on you. And even if I'm the outlier and everybody else is electronic. But you study a plan, and that's what I would do, is study a plan. And it takes time, and something material in front of me beats I can't do it on that. And that's not doing it either.
No, because of the technicalities tonight now.
No, every week, that plan.
Yeah.
There could be 23 pages to a plan, and we're seeing one. you know?
Right.
Michael, I would say it's fine that you want to see hard copies. I find on my laptop that I can zoom in and see them
Okay, so
adequately. So if for anyone who wants to have hard copies, we should be requesting them. Otherwise, not, to save paper.
That's all, and I'm only going, all I want to do is, she's going to create a standardized performance list, and what should it say? One hard copy for Michael Donnelly, the loser.
No.
I like hard copies too.
I think, yeah, that's fine. I think more importantly is that we need to make a motion that we are changing from 7 days to 14 days. So it would be 14 day, anything that was submitted 14 days before the meeting date. I think
Well,
that's what
before
we
the
need, right?
protocol, here's the thing, is that what she's saying, there's a few different things I believe that they had changed for the planning board, right? So I would like to see like what the protocol is before we make a motion on whether it's going to suit our needs, I guess. If this is something that's written down or not. Does that make sense?
Yes, and we can definitely provide that. I can email it to you guys tomorrow, and you guys can review it and pick a date, and then during the next meeting, if you need to make a motion, you can.
Yeah.
I think the planning board uses 2 weeks because it gives the applicant, it gives the board itself a week to review documents, and then the applicant a week to reply, and then they have the meeting.
I am all for having a protocol. I just want to see what the protocol is before I vote it in, or, you know?
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yep, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Yeah, we have Liz giving us some comments on this.
Now everybody can hear me. So part of the protocol with the planning board is when we give the cutoff date of 2 weeks, that now gives our staff time to take that information and share it with other department heads who might have comments. And so then we can get those comments back after a week. They can have it for almost about a week to review and give us back comments. Then we can share the comments with the Conservation Commission and with the applicant, and they have time to respond to those comments. So that's what we've done with the 2-week deadline. I don't know if there are any legal requirements of Wetlands Act or Conservation Commission that might impact our ability to, to make an earlier deadline. So that's where we need your help.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Tim what he thought of that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so that the 7 days requirement is in the Fitchburg Conservation Commission's Wetland Protection Ordinance, rules and regulations. So if we want to extend it to 14 days, then we would want to also amend the Wetlands Protection rules and regs.
I think that's doable, though. I mean, if it's something that we think is important.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be 10. Like I said, I can email you guys the protocol, 14, excuse me. I can email you guys the protocol that we use for planning board, and then if you decide on 8 days or 10 days, it would be completely up to you.
This is Nick Erickson here. I just wanted to comment a little bit. I'm actually reading through the language for the Wetlands Protection Ordinance right now. There's some other things in there that we haven't necessarily been adhering to as a commission that we might want to change if we decide to go that direction and actually change the ordinance. One of those things is that any person filing a permit application, RDA, ANRAD with the Concom, et cetera, shall provide at the same time by certified mail or hand delivery to Planning Board, Board of Appeals, Board of Health, City Engineer, Building Commissioner, copies of the submittal. The commission shall not take final action until the above boards and officials have had 14 days from receipt of notice to file written comments and recommendations with the commission, et cetera, et cetera. So technically, if we're getting application materials, they need to be distributed to other city departments, much like it's done with Planning Board. And then the ordinance states that those boards and officials have 14 days from receipt to file written comments that need to be taken into account by the commission. So we haven't been doing that with the seven days. And I know we haven't necessarily gotten all of the other city departments involved with reviewing Conservation Commission submittals. So I think we've got kind of two options. One is either we start following this or we change the city code. And if we're making city codes updates anyways to increase that time from 7 to 14 days, maybe it's a good opportunity to review this section, which might not be practical or desirable.
I would agree that we should probably take a look at that.
Yeah, Tim?
Most definitely.
Ralph?
Well, I was going to say that, you know, another way of addressing it, yes, we would have to change the rules and regs accordingly, would be to just decide when we review something whether we need to consult other boards and departments, and if we think we do, then we can continue it and direct our questions to them, rather than just have a blanket. I don't know. I would ask Liz and Nick, would that be overly burdensome to other boards and departments to be getting all of this additional, you know, copies of things that normally they're not concerned with?
I think boards and, well, certain other boards like Planning Board, ZBA, department heads would probably appreciate the opportunity to comment. It's easy to not comment if you have nothing to say. It's hard to comment if you haven't been asked.
Right. And now that Mike is no longer on, you know, he was on planning, so he could be that conduit, I think it's probably a good practice, considering it's in our ordinance, that we should be doing that. So Tim, what do you say about the discrepancy there between the 14 days distributing to city departments and our 7 days that we've been using?
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's take a look at the ordinance and make sure it's consistent and adopt whatever the commission feels is sufficient.
I guess my other question, thank you, Tim. My other question is, how would we go about amending our ordinance? Is that a motion of the city council?
I think that we would put a draft of what we wanted together, and then, yes, it would go to city council.
Okay, thank you.
And can I just ask, Herlin, when you say it's on, rather than using Dropbox, what you're using electronically is on the website, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll actually show you. So what I did for the planning board was I created a folder on the actual city webpage so that the public has access to it at all times. There is a link. I created a subfolder, but I haven't created the link for the city webpage yet. But eventually what we're going to do is just create a tab on the side of planning board, and then meeting materials, you would click on it by year and then by meeting date, and you would have access to all those materials that were discussed during that meeting. They would be on the website forever. I can show you what it looks like for planning board.
That's great, because I think Dropbox times out.
But Dropbox is by subscription, which we can do, and then it's 30-day maximum. So everything stays in there for 30 days. The planning board uses it because we have modifications or extensions, and then they need to revert to those plans, which then we don't have.
So it seems that it's probably best to move away from that, however we handle it, but it seems that we probably should move away from Dropbox and go to some other electronic form.
And the city website is a good tool for that. We, in our office, many of us have the ability to edit the website, and it's not a difficult task. Well, it depends on what you're doing, really. But you don't need to know code in order to update the website. So we can upload materials as long as they're PDFs, and oh, there we go.
So the link on the agenda for the planning board looked like this, and applicants and both the planning board during the meeting or whenever they can, at wherever they were on their phone or home, would then just access these. This was the A&R plan, and these are all the items submitted for that section, and then same thing for minor modifications, and then the hearings. Of course, we would add minutes or whatever things came up. Each individual subfolder just has all the materials pertaining to that particular item.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, I think that's great. And
Yeah.
I'd like to, as a segue from what Herlin just said about minutes, Tracy, you brought the reason I've had my hands up, you brought this up at the beginning of the meeting. There are 2 minutes that are on our agenda, and I think we should review them and if possible, approve them, because one of the things that I've heard the public say is, where are your minutes? I can't find out what you guys have done unless I attended the meeting myself. So I think it's incumbent upon us to promptly have the minutes entered into the record.
So the minutes that are available to us right now are from January, so we're catching up.
Well,
The ones that are part of our file from this month are from January, other January minutes.
Oh, but did I miss that? Did I miss that?
Yeah, those 2 that we're looking at right now
Yeah.
are the ones that are ready to be approved.
Oh, I'm sorry, I totally missed that.
I just don't know which one to click on first. You just let me know.
Well, the first one would be the meeting minutes, and we could approve that, and then the next one was the site visit. So we're just catching.
My apologies.
Catching up.
Missed that.
Yeah. So they're not from the previous month. It's January, 2 months
Right.
back. But they are available, so
Yeah. So I've reviewed them. They look complete. So I move that we approve these.
second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
Sorry, it's on a different screen.
Thank you. Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Abstain?
Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
And I'm going to abstain because I haven't had a chance to read them. But the motion passes. Okay.
And then there's the other ones from the site walk in January.
One moment, please. Sorry.
Yeah, that was the Ridemore and Emmanuel Lutheran Church site visit.
That's right.
So motion to approve the site visit minutes from January 14th.
Second that.
moved. Yeah.
Okay, and let's call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Abstain?
Thank you. Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
And the chair abstains. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I totally missed that one. I apologize.
It's okay.
So are we,
Do you want to share the email?
oh, yeah.
If you want to share it.
Okay, so our new email, if anyone would like to communicate with the commission, is conservationcommission@fitchburgma.gov. And it will be on the website tomorrow? Okay, it'll be posted on our website. And Commissioner Donnelly?
The Westminster Street property tonight paid $2,175 for a notice of intent submittal. Additionally, they paid $1,100 for a Fitchburg Wetlands Ordinance submittal. I kindly ask to include in the minutes, the applicant was in compliance with the Fitchburg Wetlands Ordinance regarding our fee structure. And further, Nick, you're still with us. Resident request. If there's a 20,000 square foot clearing, it would trigger a water
Stormwater management.
Stormwater management. Sheldon Road, 2 lots were cleared at the same time. I'm not sure that it is greater than 20,000 or 40,000. Nevertheless, there's quite a disturbance. Wetland to the right, wetland to the left. The only upland has been prepared for 2 house lots. If it triggers a stormwater submittal, I guess that's your baby. Could you look into it? But at a request of a butter.
Yes, I will look into it. The 2 lots on Sheldon Road, I believe, already have an order of conditions from the commission.
Yes, they do. They have order of conditions. This is with regarding stormwater, and it's the same problem we got into. My next point was McIntyre Road remediation. The 9 acres that were cleared, the 6 house lots, and greater than 20,000 square foot. We've all been following the dialogue, the homeowners looking for some relief. I'm trying to head this one off at the pass, perhaps, on Sheldon Road, and hoping that that we can take care of McIntyre Road remediation. But I'm particularly upset that if the city has to cover the cost of a drainage problem, it's fundamentally not right if it's a development problem. And so I'd be very disappointed if we have to expend city resources to solve a problem that should have been solved by a developer.
So
pretty disappointed.
Commissioner Donnelly, I agree with you 100%. And one of the things that I think I'd like to address with the commission is that back in 2019, when the stormwater ordinance was updated, chapter 154 of our city ordinances, the DPW was made the authorized enforcement agency for stormwater management review submittals. So anyone that exceeds that 20,000 square foot threshold needs to submit a stormwater management permit application to the DPW. Well, the DPW doesn't have the infrastructure set up right now to handle that. We don't have a permitting process really in place. I don't have any way to charge a fee to cover the time that we spend reviewing that. We don't have a body that holds public hearings, et cetera. So when that ordinance was updated and modified, it replaced and repealed the former ordinance. The former ordinance had essentially the same triggers in there, 20,000 square foot, and a few of the other thresholds, but it identified the Conservation Commission as the authorized enforcement agency. And I think that made a lot more sense because there's already a commission set up that holds regular meetings. There's an opportunity for public hearings to happen. They're authorized to levy fines for noncompliance. And there's a whole host of other reasons that I think it makes more sense for the commission to be the authorized enforcement agency. 99% of all the stormwater management permit submissions that I see go through the commission anyways because they're within or adjacent to a resource area, buffer zone, et cetera. So I would propose that, since we're talking about modifying ordinances within the Wetlands Protection Act chapter, we also take a look at that chapter 154 and revert back to the Conservation Commission as being the authorized enforcement agency for stormwater management submissions. And at the same time, we begin charging a fee for that type of submission to recover some of those costs that you're identifying, Mike.
I heard you. Back at you. That 1% that we missed is McIntyre Road. 9 acres of, that never came before the Conservation Commission. And that's one of the problems that we have right in front of us. Alternatively, Sheldon Road, that would fall under the 99%. Yes, we did comment on that. So I don't know what the answer is. We'll never see that McIntyre Road plan.
Right, and the issue is that the ordinances were changed in late 2019, early 2020, right around when those lots were permitted and developed. And the appropriate mechanism to obtain and review those stormwater management permits wasn't in place, essentially. It's still not in place. So I think in order to capture that 1% that we're missing, we got to make some sort of a change. And I think that is reverting back to the way things were prior to that ordinance change, because it seemed to work fairly well.
I heard you. I got it. And then the only thing, I would be sensitive to give more responsibility to a volunteer board. I'd have to ask the rest of the commissioners if they were willing to accept that responsibility. So, thank you, Tim. Check on the Sheldon Road, won't you? That cat's not out of the bag yet.
Commissioner Donnelly, there were stormwater reports that were filed with lots 1 and 2 of Sheldon Road.
Shut up.
Now, I don't understand yet everything that the report is telling me, but the reports are here, and they were filed with the notice of intent for lots 1 and 2, which are the 2 that I think you're talking about, because that's where all the clearing was done. So we could review this with someone who understands it all.
Yeah. Tim, is that your purview?
Yeah, I could help with that.
Tim, I'm looking back at the file with the notice of intent filing, and I can send you this in the morning, but when they filed their NOI, this was this was back in the September meeting, and the NOIs are there for both of those lots, and including a stormwater analysis. It's a checklist for stormwater report. So I'm not sure if this would suffice for what Commissioner Donnelly is looking for, but there are reports that were filed. I don't know what...
Well, they can't exceed the water, right? They can't exceed pre-development, post-development can't exceed pre-development.
Correct.
Okay, so if the report states that it won't, and it was signed by a authorized guy, then...
It was signed by, I saw the engineer's stamp, Trevor Fletcher.
The abutter should be satisfied, right? That's all. There was an abutter's request. Yep. I'll pass that along.
Okay. Is there anything else?
There is the Earth Day, and Berlin is organizing it on behalf of community development.
Yes, the Earth Day event is happening on Saturday, April 22nd, at the old Jensonia lot, the corner of Putnam and Main Street. So there's still some time to discuss. We have put out a call for vendors, and we're just looking for local artists, craft makers who support sustainability in the city. And so far, we have a few food trucks who are coming up. We have some local artisans who have signed up, a few tables. Rolf has signed up. Informative tables. We just got a call today from the library who are going to have an informative table with options for like local agriculture-related books, which I think is going to be great. It is our second annual Earth Day, and I hope it goes well. I will relay more information as I get it. So yeah.
Yeah, the table that I've registered for is going to represent the National River Watershed Association, Fitchburg Greenway Committee, and Fitchburg Trail Stewards. I hadn't planned on also trying to represent what the CONSCOM does. because it seems like that'd be too many things in one table. But if any of you are interested in setting up a table and talking about CONSCOM, I think people would be interested.
It is a Saturday event, so we understand, and I don't want to take away from Rolf, but we also have volunteers, so if you want to provide information and then have a volunteer man the table, we can also do that. We have some FSU volunteers.
Well, then what was the date again?
It's going to be Saturday, April 22nd.
The day.
The day. Hopefully not as windy as last year.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bro?
Aye. Thank you,
Commissioner
folks.
Baker?
Aye?
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
And the chair also agrees. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.